Welcome to Barrier Breakers, a podcast celebrating resilience and triumph over adversities. Expect raw, honest conversations filled with practical advice and life lessons. Now on to today's episode. Welcome back to episode 8 of Barrier Breakers. Today is all about the tale of Sue Carney. Sue is a local entrepreneur. I feel like this is just a train we've been rolling on. All of us are entrepreneurs for the most part.
I mean, great minds think alike, I guess. We just roll together and we find each other.
Yeah,
it's nice to have you. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Sue, just like all of our other guests, I will let you know, we do not come into this with any premeditated questions, no agenda. Nope. We are truly interested in knowing more about you. I know a little bit about some of the triumph you had in your life. So I will just get started with asking Sue, tell us about your childhood. Who is Sue?
Okay. That's a little bit of a tough one. My childhood, I was born and raised in New York.
Okay.
I moved out of New York to Tennessee when I was 18, got married, had a child at 19, left my family behind, and started a new life in Tennessee.
Wow. I
always felt that pull that I want to do more for not just myself, for others. There's a certain pull you have.
Sure.
And so it makes me tear up.
That's okay. We have Kleenex right there.
So I just didn't know what the pull exactly was. I knew that, I had, not to get too spiritual, but
no. By the way.
Okay.
Anything.
It's a safe place. It's who you are.
Okay, that's who I am.
I got it.
Yes. So I found the Lord as a teenager, and I knew that was giving me some direction, but I didn't know what was next. And so here I am, a young mother, left my family behind, and we're a close-knit family, so it was tough.
Sure.
And then fast forward to 2005, in my 40s, I became a realtor and left, a secure job, and didn't have a network in Tennessee, in Knoxville, and started from the ground up building that. But I knew that I had a passion for that.
Sure.
But I knew that wasn't, only who I was, and I always felt that there's more. I'm supposed to do more. And so I got breast cancer 25 years ago.
Was this before or after you became licensed?
I became licensed in 2005. I had breast cancer diagnosed in 1998.
Okay. Before your daughter?
Yeah. She was, I believe, 9 years old when I had breast cancer. Okay. So now that doesn't define who I am, but
correct.
But it helped. It was a turning point in my life because
it's part of your story.
It's part of my story, yeah. Because here I am, just a young mother, and I get diagnosed with breast cancer. I think I have it all together. I'm just a woman that's trying to do the best she can with her family.
Sure.
And so it was a monkey wrench in our whole life.
Plans that you had.
Yeah, all the plans I had, like, what's happening? Like, why did this happen? Like, how come me? Like, why did this happen?
Yeah.
And my mother did have breast cancer at 62, but I never thought, because she has this, or my dad had this, like, I'm going to get that. Like, I'm very positive. And even self-diagnosing myself and my husband saying, you need to get a mammogram. I never went into that appointment thinking anything was wrong.
How old were you?
I was 39.
Okay. So, yes, young. Young because we don't start mammograms until we're 40. Yes.
Right. So he said, his mother passed away of breast cancer. He said, you need to go to make an appointment immediately. He goes, I'm not trying to scare you. Just, I want you to be on the safe side. So I listened and did it. And, they said I had breast cancer. And there's a lot to the story. I am going to write a book. But I'll try to summarize what I learned from all that. I had 4 chemo treatments. I was stage 1. I lost all my hair. I had hair. My hair was about down to here. And
if you're listening, that's below her. That's that's pretty long hair.
I was fit. I felt like I was attractive and everything. Yeah. So it was kind of like stripping me of my womanhood is how I felt. Like it just ripping it apart.
I know that.
And getting out of the shower and you're losing your hair and I'm crying and my husband's holding me in the shower, like, because I knew that that would affect, like, that sounds maybe superficial or vain, but I knew losing all that hair would do something, and it did. And so during the chemo treatments, I was allowed to go visit my mother, and I had a wig on. And, you know, my mother's a real New York mother.
Say less. We got it.
I don't know how to describe it. But she's like, I want to see under that wig. I'm like, why? She's like, I just want to. So I peeled it away and showed her, and she started to cry. And I'm like, it's okay, Mama. I'm going to be okay. Like, I really am. And so I needed her to see me, though, on that. I need to go to that trip. And I overcame, and sorry about it, but I overcame and got through the chemo treatments were the hardest part of the journey. I was between the bed and the bathroom all day long. And I did incorporate nutrition, which I had never been this nutrition guru freak, but I knew that I have to do something different. Like, I knew that this didn't come upon me because I didn't do nutrition, but I felt like I want to be a better me.
Yes, absolutely.
So I incorporated nutrition, but that wasn't the wake-up call. During this whole journey, it was, what am I doing with my thoughts? Okay, so from 1 second to the next, it's like, okay, are you going to die? Like, what's your future? Like, all these thoughts are coming at your head all the time. So I'm like having to filter the thoughts. And for me, because I am a Christian, like, I put the word of God on continually. Like, I had to have something playing continually so to help me kick the thoughts out. And I had a support, only a few people. I didn't want everyone to know, because I knew that if they bring negativity in to my bedroom,
that's good.
I can't handle. So who I surrounded myself had everything to do with my healing.
That's good.
It was only a select few.
That's very smart. Very smart.
And then what I put in my body after that, like, I was only, during the chemo, I was only juicing and drinking protein shakes, because that's pretty much all I could keep down.
And meat tasted, oh gosh, when I went through chemo, meat was just so disgusting.
It was disgusting.
Yeah.
So, but the real lesson in the whole thing, and I don't feel like I got this so I could learn a lesson, but I had someone tell me this many years ago before this happened. And I was doing all kinds of church stuff, and I was the go-to. Everybody came to me when they need something. I'm the go-to person.
Yeah.
My hand goes up for everything. I didn't know how to say no. And
it's an art.
That's me.
It's an art.
That's that.
I still have that issue.
It's an ever-learning art. It is.
Yeah. I suffer from that too, sister. So I get it.
That.
Yeah.
But anyway, so after the breast cancer, I realized, this guy says to me, he was a minister. We had lunch, and he goes, "I have something to tell you." And he's pretty bold, but he's loving, but his voice was not that loving. At this lunch, he goes, "I saw last Sunday," he goes, "your skirt wasn't ironed." And I'm like, he's very laid back, not religious. And I'm like, what? He goes, "My point, you're not taking care of yourself, and you're taking care of the whole world. It's time for you."
Wow.
This is before the breast cancer. And I'm like, I didn't really listen. So after breast cancer, what I learned is not to say yes to everything. And my husband actually started checking my schedule, my daily schedule, and he would look and he'd say, "Take 3 things off."
That's awesome.
He goes, "You're not Superwoman. And you're not Amelia Earhart either." And he goes, I don't know if you know the Amelia Earhart story.
Oh, yeah.
He goes, I know you want to do all this. He goes, but you remember about taking care of yourself? So if I feel like I'm getting out of balance with that, I'll ask him to help me.
Wow.
So he has.
He's your counterbalance.
He's a quiet man, but I mean, when he speaks, you want to listen.
My husband too, yes, I understand.
So that's what I learned from it. Like, you gotta quit being a people pleaser, a client pleaser. Because as a realtor, when the client calls, jump, And another 30-year veteran realtor told me one time, I guess he saw something in me. He goes, stop being a pop-up realtor. He goes, do you know what I mean by that? He goes, when they say go, you jump. He says, stop that.
Good.
And I'm like, wow, I don't even know this guy. He must have saw something.
That's good advice.
So I realized that you can be a high achiever and you can be maybe that, go-getter, or you just want to serve. Like, I'd say more than a go-getter or people pleaser, like you just want to do good in the world and you want to serve others. But if you don't put yourself first to some degree, you are going to burn out and you won't be able to serve anybody.
That's really good.
My favorite quote, and my sophomore year at UT, so this was back in 2009, 2010, I forget which semester it was, but I had carried this favorite quote with me since that time frame. And it was, until I went through my cancer battle, was you were giving 2 hands, one for yourself and the second to help others. That was on the end of every email line, my text threads. That was my guiding light. And so when I went through my battle with cancer as well, there was only a brief amount of time where I said, why me, God? I give so much. I help. I'm so selfless. Why me? Yeah. Right? And so I had to also protect my mind and say, I give too much and I don't take care of Brittany. Boundaries were not a thing. Everybody had free range because I was so empathetic and I thought, this is the way. And I had to take a step back and say, people are going to attack you. Jesus is a great example of that.
Great
example of that. And I'm like, we all have our own trials and tribulations, so why not me?
Right.
And I had to switch that to say, because I found out mine was caused by genetics. I'm BRCA2 positive. I've never mentioned that.
My daughter is too.
She is. Yeah. And so I said, I'm glad, and it sounds crazy. I'm thankful that it was me and not my 2 sisters. They both have 4 kids. They're not as well off as I am. They are not as mentally tough. They don't have the fortitude. We are just built differently.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I'm like, thank God it wasn't my sisters. And I truly believe I was built to win this just like you were. So I am so proud of you and the work you did, because I'm on those survivor pages. They probably weren't a thing when you were first diagnosed. No. There's so many now on Facebook.
There are, I'm in a few.
And I had to mute them sometimes. I don't know if you do, because it was comfort as I was going through treatment.
Right.
And now that I'm on the other side, I pop in to give hope to other ladies that are also stage 3. But it
tries to bring me back.
Yes.
I'm not saying I want to completely forget, because there are scars that you just never forget.
Yes.
Yeah.
But in a way, I want to help these women, but it also brings me back to the darkest hour.
It's a fine balance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you were telling us earlier that you have aspirations to start this group, and you don't know what to do. You still have this pull. You have this pull, and that pull is the Lord. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah.
That's not.
I mean, there's a guy, I won't say his name. He's a mortgage guy, and we've had several meetings, and he has a pull to do certain things. I'm sure you know him. And he also cooks like me, so I love to cook. And my family was like, you ought to open up a restaurant. You ought to open up a B&B. I'm like, I can serve people only so many dimensions there.
Yeah.
Like, I can't, like with food. I said that could maybe come later, but I said I really want to help people overcome.
Sure.
Like, not just in breast cancer, like overcome in life.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like getting hope. Like, that's the pull I feel.
Yeah.
So, I've been toying with forming a breast cancer group with diagnosed, in the middle of, and post breast cancer, which would be inspirational.
Sure.
It wouldn't be, let's all cry together.
Yes.
And it would be spiritual. Because that's who I am.
And that's your group. And you have the authority to set the boundaries.
Because I've gotten really into nutrition, there would be that element. Because these women, like when I got diagnosed, you're lost. Like the doctors, and I give them a lot of credit for helping me, but they only go so far. It's like, from there, where do you go?
They treat the tumor. I had a conversation with Natalie, actually, from our last episode.
Yeah.
She is big into holistic healing and all of that. And I'm like, doctors they're trained to treat the tumor, not the whole person.
Exactly. Because when you're dealing with something like this, you do have to treat the whole person,
Yeah.
the emotional stuff that you're going through with this, the physical, like you want to get your body back. And then.
And your husband, I don't know if you and your husband had a moment too in your healing journey.
Yeah.
Where it becomes hard. I mean.
It was hard for him. Like during when the doctor first diagnosed me, Dave about passed out and turned white. And the doctor said, "Are you okay, Dave?" And he goes, "No."
What kind of question is that?
You okay?
Yeah. The doctor.
Like, I lost my mother.
I get like separation of different things, and you're just compartmentalized. But it's like that's just it just rolls off the tongue, and I'm just like that's.
Well, in some notes I see, because we have my chart now, and when I was diagnosed, this was after I was diagnosed with the staging MRI. Right. And in the notes, right, I read this, and I, of course, lived this. My husband and I are just in this tiny room, and the doctor comes in and tells us I have an 8-centimeter tumor. To me, I'm like, okay, whatever, it's good. We're going to beat this. My husband about fell out of his chair. Yeah. He gets angry, of course, right? Rightfully so. But in my chart, the doctor had the nerve to say husband got so angry. It was not understandable. I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you that detached from... He is a man of, he's going to go Google. I told him, stay off Google. Do not, look up what this means. I had an aunt die from breast cancer. Yeah. But even knowing that my mom had breast cancer too, even knowing that, I was determined. I'm here with you, right?
I mean, I couldn't.
But my husband too, I
couldn't go to my mother, really, even though she said pull the wig off. My mother was diagnosed at 62. And that generation, like, I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to vent to my mother. She said, I didn't talk about it.
And they didn't talk about it.
I moved on.
Yeah.
I never talked about it. And I'm like, that's you, Mom. That's not me. So I found, a sister-in-law who was about to jump on a plane when she heard I was diagnosed. She actually died of lung cancer herself at 55. But, I mean, she was one of those people, as soon as she heard, I'm ready to jump on a plane from New York and come to your aid. And then I had a best friend who was right by my side. I had 3. And they were right by my bedside. My husband at times couldn't handle it.
Sure.
Yeah, because they're the closest to us.
They were there, and they took my daughter. They fed my husband and daughter, and people came and brought food and all that good stuff. But, yeah, I think one of the hardest things was when, after all the chemo, and I still had a wig, and I had the surgery and all that, we went on a Girl Scout trip to Savannah, Georgia. And that was like the celebration of what I had just been through.
Yeah.
But here I am for the first time on the beach with my women dignity not there,
Yeah.
And I remember going in the bathroom to change. I think I was changing into the swimsuit, and I was just bawling in the restroom because I was glad that we were celebrating, but I was also facing, what I just went through and what my emotions.
Yeah.
Sure.
Pieces of you had been stripped away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was bittersweet, that trip. And going on the beach with a wig, I wasn't like all super keen.
We went to the beach in August for a family reunion, and I had just had almost my last surgeries before my reconstruction this past December. And we were in the water, the waves coming. We were at Myrtle Beach, South Myrtle Beach. The wave hit me from behind. My wig flew one way.
Oh my gosh.
And my husband had never seen me without my hair. But when that happened, now I just go freely without my hair. And I post it to Facebook and Instagram. And I'm like, it's so freeing. Before, I held on to looking and appearing like everything was okay. But when I let that go, I was like, man, it is what it is.
People would say, like the Girl Scout moms, I was a stay-at-home mom back then. Like, they would say, how do you feel, Sue? And I'm like, I feel great. Like, there's nothing that like, this is when I'm diagnosed. How do you feel? Like, they don't know what to say. I said, it's a silent disease. Like, some women have pain, but it's like, you feel the same. I mean, some women don't.
So you said you self-diagnosed. Did you feel a lump?
Okay. I got out of the shower.
Okay.
Felt that. And I never, examined myself. So it's kind of a miracle that I would even feel that. And then my husband has some background, so he knew to tell me to get on it. So, yeah. So that's kind of shaped me. There's something else I learned. I was telling that other girl that I kind of looked, even though I was a loving person and kind and all that, I looked at people who had cancer or diseases as that's you over there, but me over here is healthy, and I don't really understand that. And I realized I did have an ego about that I could maybe sympathize with those people to a degree, but I could never empathize. Right. I didn't understand it. Like I would even think, oh, why did, like, I realized I had a little bit of this thinking, like why did they get that? Like they must have done something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like how did that happen?
Cause and effect is real.
Yeah. So it's changed me how I look at others and how I think of myself. It's been a definite growth period about, my self-image, with or without things.
Sure.
and having to grow through that. And that I'm not any less of Sue because of what happened. In fact, I've grown more. And I'm a better me.
Sure.
So, but yeah, it's been quite the journey. One of the sayings that really helped me through the whole thing, it's not scripture or anything. I don't even know how it helped me, but
hey, it helped you.
Hey, if it helps, right?
This too shall pass.
It is scripture.
It is?
Yes. And it came to pass. This other thing is, it came to pass. It didn't come to stay.
Okay.
Oh, I love hearing the whole. I've never heard the whole thing before.
Like that's the thing, and it came to pass. Like the whole reason for it, the storm coming, was so it could go away. If the storm wasn't, if the storm was permanent, then we'd have different reasons to not look for the sunshine. But the whole reason for it coming was so it could go away.
I think we have the cover art for your novel, for your book.
I have a title.
You do?
For mine, yeah.
Are you going to share that? Or are you saving that?
I don't want to.
No pressure. No, okay, no pressure.
But I've worked on it a little bit. It just takes discipline to really sit down and write it.
Do you have a release date in mind?
This year, I'd like it to happen.
All right.
I would.
Well, we will be sure to share that with everyone once that comes out. That's incredible.
And it's not for me. Like I feel like there's things that I went through that, everybody's story is different a little bit. That maybe just one little thing could help somebody. But yeah, this too shall pass helps me when I'm in a struggle with life.
Yeah. Yes.
You're going to get through it, Sue. You didn't die. Because I know this sounds so ridiculous, but we were driving through the mountains of North Carolina. And I hate that road.
Oh, yes, I understand.
It's winding, and if it's raining, like I am.
Like going towards Boone?
I'm trying not to freak out.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
And my husband, he has no fear. Honestly. He's jumped, from buildings. Like, he has no fear. So I'm like, he knows, that I have this, that. So I'm like, can you go a little slower? He's like, I can, because the trucks are on either side. And so I kept saying that, Sue, you're not going to die. Like, you got through breast cancer. Yeah. You had a baby. You had 2 children.
Yeah.
You did this. Like that. Like I've learned how to be a survivor, but not just survive. Like how to champion something. Yeah. How to get it by the horns.
You're a thriver. You're what I like to call a thriver.
And not let it get me. Like even though I was still afraid, I was working through the fear. I knew I had to replace those thoughts.
Yes.
Or I was going to freak out. One time he said, don't say another word. We were driving not through there, but it was another situation. He's like, don't say another word because I can't focus. So I didn't say another word, and I had my foot up, toward the windshield. I know this sounds great. I didn't say another word, but I put my foot through the windshield and cracked it. Because
you were that
tense. Because you were that tense.
Yes.
You won't hear anything from me.
Oh gosh.
Oh.
Well, so knowing now that your daughter's BRCA2, is she taking any of the preventative measures? Because I learned of my genetic predisposition, I guess you want to call it. I got tested when I went in for my initial mammogram. So I knew of the BRCA2 after I was already diagnosed. Had I known before, I'm like, the things I probably would have done
Right. She does, like, she works out at Orange Theory.
Yes.
3 to 5 times a week. She also watches what she eats.
Mm-hmm.
And she, I think to a degree she's learned how to handle stress. So but they do try to scare you whenever she goes to like a breast center for more exams.
Yes.
Because of the gene.
Probably every 6 months.
And they try to tell her she needs like to get surgery when she's doesn't even have breast cancer. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, no, just because they said that, I'm not trying to, contradict what they're saying, but I'm not the doctor, but you need to get other opinions because you don't need to go through that unless you have to.
Sure.
Yeah.
So she does things holistically for herself.
And keeping inflammation down, that's great.
And keeping, herself more stress-free by doing exercise, by, putting in her body, feeling good about herself. I don't know if she says no to things, like
Did she get her mother? Oh, yeah.
She's a lot like me, and even her boyfriend he goes, how you said that sounds just like Jessica. Like he was watching me and your mannerisms. I says, you mean she's just like me?
I got it flipped a little bit.
Yeah.
I was here before.
So anyway, but my mother had said when she got this very rare cancer after breast cancer in her 80s. Mm-hmm. And she said, you seem to pick up not only my traits, but some of my diseases because I had a lot of urinary tract infections as well.
Yeah.
Like her. And she goes, I just hope you don't get this. And I'm like, Mom, don't worry. Moms worry. So,
sure.
But my mother lived to be 84.
Wow.
Incredible.
And she had breast cancer when she was 62. So, yeah, so I knew like when the surgeon said I didn't know this at the time he was saying it. Mm-hmm. He said it's not the death sentence. Like I was so glad he said that. Mm-hmm. But I think I always look at cancer as it is the death sentence. So it was like when he said that, it really did relieve me. Okay, like I'm glad you said that. But yeah, so it's been a journey, and 25 years later, I'm healthy and well. I'm not saying perfectly healthy. I mean, I have things that come up. Like my knee, I'm getting older.
Hey, that's a sign of getting older. That's a good thing.
My knee, and I was having these headaches, and I'm like, because things try to, like, when you've had breast cancer, and
every little ache,
and you get other things, your mind tries to jump.
To associate.
Mm-hmm. Okay, like what is this related, or is this something serious? Like you got to really control your mind. So I'm like, I was getting headaches. Like I had headaches every day 20 years ago, I'd say. And I went to an allergist and they told me what was what. And I haven't had headaches like in quite a while. Like I really do put nutrition in my body. Mm-hmm. Like I attribute it to that and God. And so, but I was getting these headaches and I'm like, where's this coming from? Like what's going on? Yeah. So I just kept dealing with it, doing my natural stuff. And my husband's really good about helping alleviate the fear if it tries to get in. Mm-hmm. He's like, so we prayed and he goes, I think you should either take a shower or a bath and breathe in those vapors. And he goes, I'm not saying like, he says, it's just my advice, like where I think it's your sinus cavity, which it felt like that. So I did it. And next day, I mean, the headache, was having them every day.
Welcome to gone. East Tennessee. That's all I can tell you.
I allergists move here.
Yeah, I never got allergies until I was here for 12 years. And now every fall I have a sinus infection. And I know it's because now, I've been gone from home too long. And I'm an East Tennessean, so I might as well prepare my nose and my face for allergy season.
So it went away and I did some of the natural stuff. But yeah, so yeah, you do. It's not like once you're through something like we've experienced, like it's totally over, things crop up.
Yeah.
Sure.
That try to make you worry or have fear. Mm-hmm. And you just have to do what you did during the breast cancer. You have to kick it out. You have to kick that thought. It's in life. Mm-hmm.
That's right.
You have to kick out the bad thought. It's not going to kick out by itself.
Yeah.
We all get thoughts, bad ones, good ones. All day, every second. I don't know.
It changes.
There's a study about it. Like every 5 seconds, there's another thought.
Yeah.
But you have to decide what you do with them. And so, and I'm not saying I'm perfect. Like I remember sometimes there would be mornings where I'm getting ready to meet clients early and you're getting ready and getting a child ready and breakfast and the husband. And I know you go through that, Brittany, and I've been there. and I'd say like, everything's going wrong.
Yeah.
You know, and I'd say,
we laugh because we understand it wholeheartedly.
This is like our everyday conversation.
Like I blurted out like, this isn't my day. And Dave my husband would say, you know, he's careful because he doesn't want to be too overbearing, but he started seeing that I was saying it a lot. He's like, what did you say? I said, this isn't my day. He said, change that. Say, this is your day.
That's good.
And so I realized, like, without even thinking, I'm like declaring my day. And if you do that, like, it is going to be bad.
That's good.
I love the way you think.
That's good.
I applaud Dave, right? Your husband?
Yeah. He's a strong.
He is. Yeah. That is wonderful. I always try to practice what I preach. So, you know, I'll put out positivity and I try to remain very cognizant of what I tell myself as well.
Right.
Because I want to attract only goodness and light.
Right.
And so before I told a friend this past October, I said, I never pray for certain things because I always wanted others to be good. My family, my friends, my husband, health, happiness, joy for them. I never prayed for discernment. I didn't pray for health until I went through my breast cancer thing. And now when I'm talking to God, I was like, I can ask for stuff for Brittany too. It's okay.
Right.
It is right okay. And just seeing, you know, and in my talks with him, my talks with myself, these things are coming.
Right.
I see the goodness coming from the intention I have in these daily talks with myself.
That's good. Something else that I do, like, of course, I pray and read my Bible, but after the breast cancer, like, I realized that I'm not still a lot. Like, so I try to sit still. You know, this is hard probably for you, Brittany, because it was hard for me. Like, I try to sit still for 10 to 15 minutes, if 10's okay.
Yeah.
So if you
like an hour?
If you got 5.
Baby steps. 3, 6, 9, 12.
Like 2.
And then just be still.
Yeah.
You know, God says, be still and know that I am God.
Yeah.
Just be still and don't think about what you got to do or everything. If you can just focus your mind, even if it's on something that you're, you know, believing for that hasn't come to pass yet, or something that relaxes you, like the beach, and just be still. Yeah. Or even go outside and breathe in the air and be still. Yeah. So I tried to do that. Like, I'm not saying I'm successful, especially after I really was cognizant of doing it every day. I try to do that and just have my quiet time every day, no matter what. Yeah. And Dave and I are on this program where we're doing 20 minutes where we have our quiet time. Yeah. And we're accountable to each other. And us life tries to get in and distractions and turn your notifications off and all that stuff. And then we pray together on this thing we're doing for the month of January 3 times a week. And then we're going to go out once a week. A date is good, but we could make it a date. Like, go out once a week and just try to speak life into somebody.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
That's good.
So that's something that we're doing for the month of January. And then I'm doing my weight loss program for the month of January.
Like the rest of us.
And my real estate business and my other business. But yeah, but those 2 discipline things we're doing is really for me, like, for me, my growth.
For sure.
And reading books that help you grow is something I always do. Yep. Not just Christian books, like self-growth books.
Sure, absolutely.
That help my business too. And who you surround yourself with, like, and I know you know this, Brittany, like, who you surround yourself with has everything to do with not only where you're going in the professional sense, but where you're going as a human being.
Correct, yeah.
So I'm really careful who I let into my world.
Well, there's a saying or studies, I'm not really sure what it is, but it says that you are the average of the 5 people closest to you.
You are.
And when you really, like, take that into retrospect, you've got to put boundaries up. That makes you change stuff, especially if you contradict somebody all the time, or if you're butting heads with somebody all the time. It comes to the point where, you know, you can love them, but if it's toxic for you,
right,
then there comes a point when you just have to shut that off.
I had to do that.
I
was
had
hard.
to too. Yes. Family and friends and people that you've known for a while,
Yes.
and just being honest about, is this a toxic relationship?
Yeah.
Is there reciprocity, or am I always giving till there's
Right.
nothing left?
Because in a friendship relationship or any relationship, in my opinion, it should be a give and take.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're always the giver and
Mhm.
they're always the taker,
Yeah.
because I started in some relationship, I started feeling like I would get this sick feeling after I would talk to
Oh, you felt
certain people.
depleted. Yeah.
I would feel a sick feeling.
Yep.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I didn't want to realize what it was happening.
Mhm.
That hey, this is draining you.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Boundaries are healthy.
Yeah, that's biblical too. Yeah.
I know.
It says the boundaries for you have fallen in pleasant places, and therefore you have a great inheritance.
Yeah, that's true. There is a verse on that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, but I love that the name of your podcast is Barrier Breakers,
Yeah.
Yep.
because really what we're talking about is barriers.
Yep.
Mhm.
It's not just in our lives. Like we dealt with it with breast cancer,
Yeah.
but people have, generally speaking, people have barriers. But unless you find a way to break them down, they're just you're gonna go into this new year with the same barriers.
That-
Yeah.
That's
So-
what we were talking about a lot, and I was talking about before. It's like, who you are is not what you do,
Exactly.
but what you do is an extension of who you are. And just getting to know people, getting to talk to people, learn their stories. There is a why behind how people act. There's a why behind what they do,
How they respond.
how
to
they
certain
respond to
situations.
something. Like if they if they react instead of respond, because there's two different things. You can be a reaction, and then there can be a response. And the reaction is 9 times out of 10 probably not positive.
Explosive.
not positive, like the reaction, they call it a knee-jerk reaction for a reason.
Mhm.
But then there's a response, and it's the quiet, like introspective response. And that's, as far as one of the things we talked about is one of the hardest things is self-accountability when you go through a situation or you're a victim of something.
Yeah.
But learning the ways or seeing the ways where you've adopted those behaviors.
Mhm.
And that was one of the hardest things for me at a time in my life. I went through a very verbally abusive situation. And it's like, you are a victim of verbal abuse for a long time, but then you realize when you're reading and when you're discovering, the hardest part for me is like realizing how I had adapted some of those behaviors that I hated.
Mhm.
So I don't even know where that came from.
That's true. And I think like something I've been working on this last 6 months really is like, am I carrying any bitterness
Mhm.
It's good.
toward others? Like honestly,
Yes.
like
Yeah,
not just like really self-examining.
sure.
Like, do I really have forgiveness? Like this person did me wrong,
Mm-hmm.
like, or this client did me wrong. Like, am I holding bitterness? Am I jealous because this realtor has all this business and I don't? Like
Yeah.
that can cause bitterness.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what do you think? Like, what are you thinking about?
Yeah.
Like, I've really self-examined myself.
Yeah.
It's so good and it's so healthy. It's something
Yeah.
that's
It
it's
is.
like we talk about a lot. It's a lost art.
Yeah.
Like self awareness is a lost art, or
Yeah.
just saying something just because you were raised that way. Well, this is just how it was. It's like, no, if
No.
you know that your words are going to offend somebody
Right.
and you consciously do that, that's not on, well, that's just how I am. But that's not a good enough excuse anymore.
No.
No.
It's not a good enough excuse anymore.
Absolutely.
I deal with that.
It's
I've
true.
dealt with that a lot.
Yes.
I don't deal with it a lot currently
Yeah.
because of boundaries, but I have dealt with it a lot in the past.
And we
Yeah.
talked about this too, just assuming you know someone
Yep.
because of the exterior facade we all have.
Yeah.
A lot of people assume, okay, Brittany's going to put herself together. I don't care what it's for. My hair, my makeup. I like to look good. I feel good. That umps my confidence.
Sure.
And what I've seen happen is people make assumptions about, oh, this girl, she's never been through anything.
yeah.
The people know I've done pageants. They assume I grew up doing them. I'm like, no, I did them for anyway. So people assume that I was raised a certain way or I had easy opportunities. And I'm like, oh no, I've fought and scrapped and had to protect my mental to get here. And it's just unfair. And I know we all do it. I will still see a beautiful girl, and if I, her husband's X, Y, and Z, I'm like, oh, she does nothing. She stays at home. And now that I'm a mother, I'm like, she does a lot. Being a stay-at-home mom is the hardest thing. I don't even want to do that job. Yeah. So, that's why we started Barrier Breakers, because we all have this tendency of assuming we know someone's story based on what we see on the exterior. And it's so important that we sit down and have these conversations.
That we listen intently and figure out why. There's a why behind it. Your why. It's wanting to know that, and a desire to know that, and then a desire, like we talk about it, like vulnerability. That's true. Is your greatest superpower.
Because I learned how to do that on social media. Yes. Where I tried to just kind of have a facade. Yeah. And then this guy started saying, you should be a little more vulnerable. Like people you have to be relatable.
You do a great job at being relatable.
So I've really upped my game on that. But I remember I was just telling my husband about this last night. Like I had two friends, and they actually started crying and said to me that they were jealous of me. This is when I was younger. And I
powerful for them to admit that.
Yeah, for sure.
And they started crying. One of them was like, you serve all the time, like with no strain or stress. And they don't really know if I have strain or stress. But they just see what they want to see.
That's what it is, right there.
The other one's like, you're successful. This is when I worked in a law office. You're successful. She was overweight and I wasn't. You're a good cook. You're this. And I'm like, no, stop it. I'm like, these are your good qualities.
Yeah.
And stop comparing. But then I had a girl, this is in the last 7 years, and when she heard that I went from a sheltered family, I could have had everything handed to me, to moving to Tennessee, having nothing handed to me, and actually experience what poverty feels like.
Sure.
Yeah.
She could not believe it. She's like, I don't believe it. Like, I said, you only see me where I am. This is when I made 6 figures in real estate.
Yeah.
I said, you only see me where I am today. I said, I actually had my electricity turned off for 30 days with a toddler. I was actually being thrown out of where I live. I didn't even know how I was going to get the formula money. I said, I feel like if I didn't move away from my family, I would have never experienced that or known how to relate to someone that has gone through that. Because I came from a sheltered family. She actually, after me saying all that, she goes, I don't believe it. I said, I wouldn't lie to you.
Yeah.
I said, I have the scars of during that time in my life.
Yeah.
It was 6.5 years, roughly, with a toddler. My mother would, whenever I would tell her, and my mom and dad, they jump in and write checks for all the bills. But my ex-husband back then, he was just a bass trombonist. When we moved down here, he just got out of the military. He could not find a job here. And they didn't like Northerners. So it was tough. He couldn't find a job. And then I have a baby, so I wasn't going to go to work right away. And then finally, when my son was 2, I went to work. But I worked double shifts at Duff Smorgasbord to help meet the bills. And that's 12 hours a day or more. And we still struggled quite a bit, so I got a taste of what it feels like to not know where your next formula bottle is going to come from. And one time I went into, I don't know if I guess there's some of them around still, Weigel's.
Yeah.
I was bringing the milk bottles that you could bring them in for money. And I, of course, prayed every day and said, God said, his seed will never beg for bread. Like I knew the scripture.
Sure.
And the church I was going to, like they believed in the abundant life. And we would go get cars. Like I have big belief. So I would get the new car. We just couldn't pay for it. I would get, the new house, but my mother paid the mortgage. But I go into Weigel's, I'm bringing these milk bottles in, and there in the middle of one of the aisles is $100 envelope with a $100 bill in it. And I knew normally I would turn it in, but I knew that was for me.
Yeah.
And just things like a lot of little miracles like that took place.
So many things that people see one thing and they make assumptions that nobody's ever hurt, like that you've never hurt.
Yeah.
Like they just see where you are and they assume you've never had a bad day in your life.
Yeah.
Or they assume that, you know, you were just had the perfect childhood, or you had the perfect upbringing, or everything was handed to you. And it's like, that's what we're breaking. Like,
literally,
we're
broken through. We're still breaking.
No, but I'm saying that's what we're breaking. We're breaking the mindset. We're breaking the mentality. We're breaking the assumptions that people don't have stories, or people don't. They feel like they don't matter just because they don't wear a cape,
Right.
or lift buildings.
Yeah, or have, you know, peace prizes and things like that. We still have our own personal triumphs each and every day. For some people, it's literally, like Natalie, getting out of bed.
That's
a win.
That is a win.
Brushing your teeth, taking a shower.
Right.
It's a win.
So I actually, when I put on Facebook that I was looking for stories from more people here locally, I had a home inspector, an owner of a company here, text me. And I was going about my day. I was busy. When I stopped to read his text, I was like, holy cow. I would not have assumed this about him.
Wow.
I'm excited to sit down with him soon, just like I was with you. It's just, it's incredible. The stories we don't know behind someone, their why.
You have to get to know somebody. I guess that's why, like, I don't know if I ever shared this with you, Brittany, like, I would not go to networking groups.
Yes, you did.
And then my daughter's like, you've got to network, Mom. Like, you're a realtor. Like, do you want to get those high dollar houses? I said, not really. I just want to help people.
Yeah.
But she's like, 'cause her degree was in marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And she's like, you got to get out there. And so I never would go to the networking groups because of fear. Like, I identified it.
Sure.
And so I decided that if I was ever going to grow myself, I had to face that fear.
Yeah.
So I joined one, and I went every Friday. And I know this sounds crazy, especially for somebody my age. Like, before I would go into those doors, I would feel like I'm going to upchuck.
Yeah.
And I felt like I wanted to run back to the car. And that really made me face, like, you have so much fear with meeting strangers and being vulnerable, because you're going to have to get to know some of these people, that it really helped. Like, I overcame so much in that year. It didn't just help my businesses. I was there for that, but I was really there for the other.
That's right.
And just facing that, like, you have to come to grips with what are you running from. Like, I was running from myself, that I can't do those social setting things. Like, I hate small talk. Because I want people to be real. And I want to be real with people. And in those settings, it's all, to me, it always seemed like a facade. So I didn't want any part of it. But I've seen, like, over the years, like, it really, because I allowed that fear, it's really hindered not only me, but my businesses.
Yep.
And so I'm glad that I faced that. I can't say I run to every gathering. Like, I actually missed my company party.
Yeah.
There was a conflict.
Yes. Well, Dave had you take something off your list that
There was a conflict, but I didn't have the fear that I once had about it. So you do have to a certain degree, with barriers, with fears, you have to identify it and then run toward it instead of away. But if you don't know how to take it on, like, you may have to get help. Like, I had a coach that helped me face it. He said this one statement that came to my forefront. He said, to me personally, he said, stop being the little girl and be the woman that God made you to be.
It's good.
That'll preach.
And I'm like, yeah, that little girl is afraid of those settings, and I got to run toward it.
Yeah.
So I give him credit. He knows
For
who
sure.
he is if he hears this.
I love that. You know, we have all had people in our lives that have stood up and pulled us and championed us.
I think that's a running theme today.
Yeah, that is.
It's a running theme today.
Yeah, wow.
I'm very grateful for the people in your life that have reminded you that Sue is still incredible Sue. Yeah. Even when bids were taken away, every stage of your life, you know, we were all humbled. You were reminded that cancer can happen to any of us. Yeah. You're a victor in my eyes. 25 years and all the stuff you're accomplishing and that you want to do.
And the desires that you have that you're acting upon.
I mean, I'm not, like, sometimes I guess the devil will try to say you're too old to do that. But so like I told my husband yesterday, I said, you know, I have dreams. Like I dream every day. Like I want to travel around the world.
Yeah.
And you know, he may not have that dream.
Yeah.
I have friends that will go. There you go. Like I want to go tell my friends.
Travel around the world.
Let the record state that your lack of desire is not going to inhibit my ability.
Hey, but you know what? He will support you in your dream,
and
that's
me.
Yeah, that's so good.
My friends travel to 100 countries, and
wow.
And I was telling her yesterday, I says like I'm not like most people. Like I want to travel to weird places. Like
so, what's the weirdest place?
Like I want to go to Thailand's not really weird. I said because she was saying that there's a friend she's met and she may want to go to Taiwan. I said, yeah, I mean, that would be a place I wouldn't mind. And I just saw a couple of friends on Facebook that just traveled for 6 months with their family to Asia. I said, and they went to Vietnam, which I never thought I'd want to go there just because of what happened there. But it actually piqued my interest. Yeah. I said, so like places, I have like my top 3. But I said, there's other places, like I want to see how other cultures live. And I want to be able to learn from them. And maybe they can learn something from me.
Absolutely.
So I really want to do that. Like I want to travel the world and not just a pie in the sky mentality. Like I really want to make it happen. And I want to make some of that happen this year.
It will. Hey, let's go. 2024 is our year.
We have to expect.
Yeah.
Because I was telling my husband, like, I have this sense of expectation.
That's good.
For this year that I don't think I had before.
Is that your word for this year, expectation?
I guess I didn't pick a word, but I guess
that's a good one, Sue. That's a great word. Yeah.
Like, I know, like, I guess have a belief that the best really is yet to come.
Amen.
And then expecting. Like, you got to expect it before you see it. Yep. Things that are not as though they are. That's my favorite scripture.
That's faith.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm teaching in a couple of weeks on believing or faith.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to like, okay, what am I gonna cover? But I think the Hebrews chapter is really good. But you have to any things in my life that I overcame. I traveled to Italy. A friend presented it, and I didn't have the money, and I'm like, I'm going. And I pictured it like having a vision board. I always have a vision board, and I always look at it every day.
That's good.
I have a couple of them. I have so many.
The ones without Dave in them.
Yeah, right. So, but you always have to have a vision of something before you have it. Yeah. So I told her, I said, at that lunch that we were at the Olive Garden, and she goes, I organize trips for women, and this is going to be 30 teachers, and I want to invite you to go. She ended up getting breast cancer after that whole thing, and I ended up helping her. But anyway, she ended up passing away. But anyway, she formed these trips, and I said, I don't know how I'm going, but I'm going. Well, before my mother passed away, she said, I want to give you some money. And the first thing I want, she knew nothing about this. She goes, the first thing I want you to do is take a trip anywhere you want.
Wow.
And money's no object.
Wow.
And I called her up and I said, guess what?
Guess where I'm going?
And it was my daughter's senior trip.
Wow.
So she got to go with me to Italy.
That's so cool.
And it was a trip of a lifetime.
I love that. And you're going to have many more trips just like that.
Yes, I have a lot.
And then you come back and sit down and tell us all about them.
I know. Yeah. Well, Sue, thank you so much for sitting down with us today.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure getting to know you more.
Oh,
I know that we've followed each other for some time now on the social media webs.
Yes, we do.
But it's great to sit across from me every time we have the opportunity to. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Gentry, I think that's
it.
That's the end of this episode. And do we have anybody else we want to shout out to today? Maybe our spouses, our partners. Our spouses. Dave. Hey, we made fun of you today, Dave. We love you, Dave. Thank you for being Sue's champion. And continue to take off those 3 things every single day for her.
Please.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
You guys, we will see you next time. Thank you for listening to Barrier Breakers.
Yep.